Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Hunter. If you're new, thanks for joining me today. I have an adventure and hunting TV show, podcast, and channel here. I consider myself a conservationist, an explorer, and a provider. But, we go on these amazing adventures, and I'm usually trying to boil the entire thing down from a 7 to 10 day adventure into a 20-minute episode. And so there's a lot of really cool stuff that just hits the cutting room floor that I figured some people might be interested in. So in this one, I'm going to walk you through how we harvested and prepared a backcountry feast in Alaska with wild-caught fish, caribou meat, wild-gathered blueberries, and some other things, and I hope you guys enjoy. Also, I go into a little bit on how we actually take care of the meat in the backcountry to make sure it's tasty and delicious, not only for while we're there, but also to make it all the way home and to share with our families. Everything we kill, we eat, we share with our families and friends. It's a huge part of why we hunt. Hunters truly are conservationists. We love the animals that we hunt. We love the wild places that we enjoy. And the reason those wild places exist is largely due to hunters. So, hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. So this was a public land DIY caribou hunt we did above the Arctic Circle in the Brooks Range of Alaska in 2023. We chartered a plane to Prudhoe Bay, and then we took an airboat up a river, and they dropped us about 70 river miles up this river in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, where we hunted caribou for 9 or 10 days. It's an amazing, amazing place. That we saw gray wolves, we saw muskox, grizzly bears, moose, caribou, obviously. Really awesome place, and I just want to say that we need to do everything in our power to protect our public lands and our wild places, because without that conservation and protection, future generations won't be able to enjoy these wild places. So, and hunters are the biggest source of funding for conservation. So if you're new to that concept, I hope you'll look into it more. But I absolutely love these places and the animals that live there. Alright, so step one, we hunted a caribou. And the next step is I use what's called the gutless method. We quarter the animal up, which means we remove the hind and rear quarters, the rib meat, neck meat, backstrap, tenderloins, pretty much all the edible meat, sometimes some of the organs as well. Then we put them in these white bags called game bags. And those are important for keeping dirt and insects and other debris off your meat, keep it nice and clean. Then we use these specially made hunting backpacks that have what's called a meat shelf in between the pack and the frame. And we use some ingenuity to squeeze all the meat in there, and the head, like you can see. And at this point we had I think it was about a 2-mile pack back to camp, which is not bad, but in that terrain, in the tundra, with that much weight, it was probably at least 110, 115 pounds with my rifle, camera gear, meat, and head. It is not easy, for sure. So, and like when you're walking on the tundra, your feet sink down about 4 to 6 inches every step, and so it's not easy, but it is definitely worth it.
Wow, feels good to be back.
So at this point, the big thing is you want to just get the meat hung up somewhere and airing out to cool down the internal core temperature of the meat overnight. So airflow is your friend here. Normally you'd want to hang it in a tree or something, but obviously we're in the tundra north of the Arctic Circle. There are almost no trees. So we had to get a little creative on this one. So originally my plan was I was going to try to jimmy some kind of way of tying a line between two tripods. That did not work at all.
Cool. This is much easier and smarter and more effective. Boom. We can get 2 quarters on each. Your tent's right behind you.
These are Argali game bags. They're really good. Also, Black Ovis makes some really good game bags that you can find at blackovis.com. And by the way, anything you need at blackovis.com, if you use the code QUEST, you'll save 10%. So check them out. But quality game bags are always your friend on these type of hunts. This is the next day, and so this is pretty cool. It was a float trip. So at the end of the trip, we floated out on pack rafts, and I was able to use the Aquabound is the brand. This is a whiskey paddle. This is the type of paddle. Be able to use the paddles to lodge them in the trees and make a, I guess, like a pole to hang our meat from. And then,
so I unzipped the inflatable floor out of my alpaca raft. I'm gonna drape this over each meat pole just to give some shade, and then John's been cutting some brush on top of that. So it should be nice and shaded and pretty good. We're down here by the river too, so it should be a little cooler. So keep direct sunlight off it.
Also, John, my videographer, he cut a bunch of willow boughs, I guess you'd call it, or branches, and just shoved them in there for added sunlight protection and insulation. At this point, we were kind of taking a rest day, drying out, recuperating, and we decided we want to try to catch a fish and have a little backcountry feast. So I'm a terrible fisherman. I didn't catch anything. I think I may have got a bite there for a second, but then John got out there and he was able to actually pull in a really nice grayling. It's an Arctic species of fish that is it's kind of one of the most prized, I guess, game fish in Alaska, I would say. And this is a really good size one. I mean, it's not like huge, I don't think, and I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty sure that this is like a nice grayling. And it's a really delicious, light, white meat. And I mean, you just can't beat the freshness. So John went out there. It's basically kind of like a beetle spin type lure. It's you can see it's blue there. It has a blue spinning spoon. And you can see that top dorsal fin, that large top dorsal fin. That's kind of the recognizable feature of the grayling. So really beautiful fish and tasty as well. So once we got that, we threw that on a stringer and we put that in a shallow, well, we bled it out first. Then we put it on a stringer and put it in a shallow pool to keep it cool. At this point, I went back over to the meat poles, grabbed some tenderloin and some neck meat, and took it down to the river to just kind of clean it off, clean some of the silver skin off there and just kind of some of the debris and stuff. It wasn't too dirty, but just give it a nice rinse. And that water up there is so clean. I mean, we were drinking the water right out of the rivers and stuff the whole time. I was filtering just in case to be safe, but a couple times I just drank it raw, and John was drinking it right out of the river quite a bit.
Got a tenderloin, and I don't know, just a piece of scrap meat, but it looks pretty good. Not sure where it is.
Yeah, you can see really delicious, clean, lean meat. You can see there's a couple little pieces of fat right there. I didn't bring any oil on this trip or any butter. But I was able to use just those little two bitty pieces of fat to kind of get a little bit of oil in the pan, which you'll see here later. But I always bring a couple knives, a good fixed blade, and a good assisted opening lock back pocket knife, as well as I usually bring like a Havalon or some kind of replaceable blade as well for cleaning. But that's a tenderloin right there. This is some neck meat. And I also always have with me like salt. It's an MSR salt shaker. So I got on one side I have salt, the other side I have a mix of onion powder, garlic powder, and pepper. And that's all you really need. I mean, even just salt and pepper is fine, but I mean, even just salt really will do you. But a little bit of seasoning goes a long way in the backcountry. So then we went and grabbed our grayling. John's filleting her up right here, using the alpaca raft paddle as our cutting boards and plates. And yeah, you know, you just got to get creative in the backcountry. That was all we had, was our, and you know, anytime you have a piece of gear that you can have multiple uses for is always a plus. So we found several different ways to use those paddles, and also they were our ticket. I mean, they got us out of the backcountry. So. And that is actually fresh grayling roe that we pulled right out of the fish. And you saw right next to it, that was some blueberries.
Yep. And try some grayling roe here, fresh out of the fish. Not a whole lot of flavor, but pretty good.
Honestly, it tastes like roe that's on sushi, so can't be that bad for you.
Just got a tiny bit of caribou fat. Try to get a little oil out of it.
And that's another thing on a base camp trip like this, a little frying pan like that, that's an MSR, just a little frying pan. So worth it, so worth it. And it doesn't weigh anything. So then, yeah, I just cooked up little medallions of tenderloin that I had seasoned. And there's just nothing like fresh, harvested meat that you worked really hard for. It doesn't get any fresher. Like, even down here in the lower 48, when you kill a deer, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great meat. I love it. But, you know, they're eating GMO crops and pesticides and stuff out of people's yards and all kinds of stuff. This animal has barely ever even seen a human. It doesn't even know what a farm is. Like, it's never eaten anything that's not completely natural. I mean, it's basically lived in the same state that its ancestors have lived for God knows how many thousands of years. There's no cleaner meat on the planet. Only a hunter will ever really truly experience what is that like.
Try a little taster of some caribou tenderloin. Oh my gosh, good.
That bad, huh?
That was so good. That was very good. Okay.
This time of year, there's wild blueberries growing everywhere on the tundra floor. While I was cleaning the meat and all that stuff, Jon actually spent like probably 45 minutes out there and collected like a whole thing of berries.
Ready.
You hear him throwing on the grayling fillets, skin side down, of course. I always, if I can, I bring tortillas, and I like to make a little taco out of the meat.
Look at that. And I got my traditional caribou taco.
Just adding some of that carbohydrate on there. Just takes it to the next level.
Delicious. Oop. A little bit of tundra. Never hurt anybody. A little tougher, but still good.
It's always a little tough when it's like straight off the animal, but it's still delicious. Anyway, at this point we mashed up our blueberries. You can see Jon's mashing up blueberries with a tent spike. Again, just getting creative.
I almost thought about not bringing my berry smasher, but here we are.
We got a little bit of sugar.
Yeah, a little bit of sugar in there. We should definitely do that. A little bit of this tart, a little bit of...
Okay.
I normally never would travel with that much sugar and like all these different things we're using on a backcountry hunt, but since it was a nice base camp, you know, why not bring some stuff to be comfortable? So dumped a little sugar into our blueberry sauce, cooked those down.
Try a little bit of it.
And we finished cooking our grayling off, and at that point, once the skin was nice and crispy, we got creative again with, we didn't really have plates, so I put one of the fillets here on a food bag that we had repurposed, and I just kind of used the frying pan for mine, but we topped it off with our sauce and then topped it off with some fresh roe. Wow, it was good.
Okay, one in there for you.
I would have put a little more salt on mine in retrospect because I like salty food, but the fatty deliciousness of that fish, although it was pretty lean, but the fatty acids of the fish with the acidic blueberries and sweetness, and then kind of the rich, almost creaminess of that roe. Definitely the fanciest and probably most delicious thing I've ever eaten on a backcountry trip.
Okay. Let's try this. That was good. Very good.
Some of the whitest, cleanest fish I've ever had. Wow.
Go ahead and drop in the comments right now, what's the fanciest or tastiest thing you've ever made on a camping trip? If you want to see these hunts, make sure you subscribe to the channel. These hunts will drop first on television on the Sportsman channel, starting July 1st, 2024. You can see that show at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday nights on the Sportsman channel. I have a fresh podcast I drop every Sunday morning, and about 170 episode library to this point. So check those out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Find me on Instagram at The Hunter's Quest, and be on the lookout for these hunt films when they come out, which will be around July or August of 2024. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.